Hello.
Hello.
Hi, it's Emily and Alex from We've Got Ears.
Good evening.
Hi. So today's January 6th, and we have driven clear across the country from California to Florida
From the Pacific Ocean to the Atlantic Ocean.
to visit Disney World. A lot of you already knew that we were coming, and a lot of you from Instagram have seen us posting the past few days on Instagram. So we've received a lot of questions that honestly I don't think we were prepared for through Instagram, and the majority of those questions have to do with crowd level in the parks and comfort level in the parks. So we are doing like a one take vlog on the subject because we feel like it's important to get it out there, answer your questions in a timely manner, because the rest of the videos will require editing and not be out as soon. So we wanted to address the questions that we're getting now because we realized we had a lot to say on the matter when we didn't even expect the questions, let alone expect to address them. So we started receiving these questions 2 days ago when we first got here.
Yeah, that's right. That's about the first time. Yeah.
When we were in Epcot, and it just so kind of happened that we were in Epcot on a Monday, and we felt pretty comfortable. So the people that I did answer, in general, we felt very comfortable, and that's the answer that you got. However, we've had a few instances since then
that have been a different experience than the first day at Epcot.
So I even stopped, I put a halt on answering questions that night at Epcot because when the sun went down on the World Showcase,
the comfort changed for us.
And if you've been there, if you know when the sun sets on the World Showcase, if you know what I'm talking about, well, it's pretty much the same thing. And so we figured that since a lot of you are asking these questions, a lot of you are saying that you're thinking about going as well.
And if you're asking us, we want to give you the correct picture and not give you just a skewed point of view. We're trying to give you the experience that we've had.
Yeah, because we figure that if you're asking us and you're telling us that you're thinking about going, we're kind of figuring that maybe our response might play some part in whether or not you decide to go. You might take that into consideration, and because of that, we feel the responsibility to give you a full picture, and not just say things are great. I think it's important to address the fact that we've had a few struggles and moments and breakdowns even.
Yeah, we did. We're people. We have reactions to things, and we're letting you know all of it right now.
So the main thing here is that we realize that everybody's comfort level is going to vary. We can't assume that it's the same as ours.
We can just provide you with the facts and the observations, so you can make a more informed decision.
Right. We can't answer whether or not you're going to be comfortable.
That's not our
power. But yeah, we can provide you with facts to help you make an informed decision about it. So, the number one takeaway I think that we have from our first 2 days here is that we realize that we can only look after ourselves.
And I don't like to say it, but you cannot rely on Disney to make you feel safe.
We had, like, I feel like we kind of naively made a mistake in assuming, and we fully, like, accept that.
And take responsibility for that.
We fully accept that it was naive and short-sighted of us to just, like, expect that when we walked through the gates, like, we were gonna feel safe. We made a mistake in, like, putting our trust into something else to make us feel comfortable. And you can't
do that.
Do that.
Mm-mm.
We
can't do that.
Yeah, personally, like, we kind of built up a false sense of security because Disney's familiar, Disney's home, Disney's safe. So we kind of had this, like, feeling of, like, oh, we'll walk through the gates and we'll just be like, oh, what a relief.
It will somehow feel safer than everyday life.
Which you don't. Like, you feel just as safe as you feel, like, so whatever your level is, whatever your level of concern is now, as you go to the grocery store, as you go to Target, as you mill about your hometown.
In public, yes.
That's the same level of concern that you're going to have at Disney. It's not any magical, like, you know, thing happens that, like, takes, I mean, for us, you know, to take away our worries. We realized it's the same level of caution that we exercise daily.
Exactly. Yeah. It's not gonna be any different than going to the store. Now, the crowds is a factor because they just increased from the 25 to 35% capacity
at the new year.
Right.
Like January 1st, they went from 25 to 35.
Now, my personal reference, I don't have a Walt Disney World before this week reference, but for my Disneyland reference, it felt like a regular day at the park. When you're walking through the streets, it feels like and looks like the same crowd.
There's definitely areas of the park that feel more open, and it's usually around, like, attractions that are not open right now, or, you know, just kind of the areas that you would already expect to be less crowded are.
Corners, yeah.
But in the areas that are typically crowded, they've still been crowded for us when we've been at 35% capacity. And maybe one of those factors is we just realized that 2 days ago they released a Florida resident discount ticket package, so that may have increased
more capacity filling.
I mean, as far as we were told, everything's at 35%, but it feels like a medium, you know, busy day at Disney, because a lot of the lines are all of the lines are extending out of the attraction queue.
Right. The queues are huge because of the way they have the turnstiles set up. So it and because of that, it's the wait times for rides are shorter than they appear. Like, I don't know how to say that.
Well, so they're artificially inflating the wait times, and we have experienced that on the attractions that we've been on.
Yeah, that's right.
There's generally half an hour to 40 minutes inflation in the wait time. So I think it's kind of designed to keep people, you know, from crowding into lines. But, you know, because the lines extend, the queue extends outside of the attraction, it does make it feel more crowded. There's less people in line, I guess, because the wait times are actually lower than quoted on the app, but that means that there's more people milling about because they're not in line. So, I mean, honestly, it feels just as crowded, for instance, like areas in Pandora, you know, those areas that kind of bottleneck and cluster. It's still like that right now for us at the beginning of January. So all of those, you know, photos and footage that we saw just a few months ago of empty parks and stuff, the crowds are increasing based on what we've seen then versus now.
Right.
And so I guess we should explain kind of what made us uncomfortable, kind of what, you know, we mentioned kind of the break came when it got dark at Epcot, and then we decided like, okay, we're uncomfortable getting it out of here, but it didn't really like, it didn't upset us too much. We just said, okay, well,
like we did have a full day there, so we were like, we were okay with,
we're uncomfortable, let's remove ourselves from the situation,
exactly.
Let's go, no biggie. But what happened that night when we got back to our hotel is that we discovered something very unsettling that may have set kind of the mood for this next day.
We had I should say what we found.
Oh,
in our Airbnb, disgusting, I found human fingernails on the floor. Now, I don't want to make that sound like fingernail clippings. I found full-on fingernails.
No. You're making it sound very gruesome.
Okay, they were
acrylic nails that somebody had peeled off the whole acrylic part of their nail. It wasn't like somebody peeled off their fingernail.
Okay, they peeled off their acrylic nail.
It wasn't like a crime scene, but it was, somebody had peeled off their entire acrylic fingernails and left them like underneath the dresser on the floor. And we were just creeped out because we were like, okay, if they didn't clean that, it wasn't very hidden.
No.
If they didn't clean that, then what else did they not clean? And so we were kind of grossed out, from that. And then so we entered the next day at
a base of uncomfortable.
Yeah. So we realized that played a part into it.
That's on us. Yeah.
But we went to Animal Kingdom the next day and we went to Pandora, and the first thing that we did was get in line for Flight of Passage.
Which, Pandora, beautiful. Okay, so Flight of Passage. We stood in the line queue. They had social distancing markers throughout the entire line.
Mm-hmm.
They did have some of those plexiglass partitions.
Everything was comfortable in the queue.
Right.
There was social distancing in the queue, just like the lines on the floor that you've seen everywhere else.
And that seemed perfectly fine.
We were fine and comfortable with that. But our issue came to getting to the attraction, they spend all this time keeping you separate in the queue. And then when you get on the attraction, they just wanted to cram us in there.
With strangers.
Right next to strangers.
Like,
that weren't in our
side.
party.
Yeah.
Yeah, they wanted to seat us right on the vehicle right next to somebody else. And those vehicles are inches apart, let alone 6 feet. And so we were like, well, what was the point of social distancing us the whole way? And you're just going to, like, cram us into an enclosed room at the end.
Exactly.
With air circulating in your face. So we realized that that's what was going to happen.
So we backed ourselves out of that and requested that that not be the situation. So they let us stand back and go with the next boarding house. We just had to watch that little movie again.
So yeah, they were accommodating, and they did say like, oh yeah, we can get you we were on there with like a party of 6 or something, and they threw us in there and it filled up the whole thing. They said, okay, no problem, you just wait for the next ride vehicle. And then we were in there with only one person with an appropriate amount of space between us. But what we also kind of were shocked, I guess, about, and I don't really know why, because I had seen all these things about them cleaning the ride vehicles very frequently, and I don't know why in my head that I had assumed that they cleaned them between each ride.
That was my presumption as well.
And they don't.
No.
I mean, I don't know where I got this from, and I don't know where I assumed, and like I said, like, I just fell into a false sense of security.
So, like, the Flight of the Passage is like you're on almost like a stationary bike kind of dealy thing where you straddle it, and they tell you to hang on to these things, and that's what you have to do. It made me feel uncomfortable. So it just made me feel uncomfortable.
So we, like I said, we for some reason we thought they were, cleaning it between each party. They're not, and that's on us. So what we did was, because we felt uncomfortable, we decided to go to guest relations to try to get some answers, to try to get like some data. I don't know, because like our solution was like, let's get more information so that we can make a decision.
Like that would make us feel better.
Yeah. Or like, I mean, I thought at least it would help us make a decision about whether or not we were going to feel comfortable for the rest of our trip.
Mm-hmm.
So we went to guest relations and we didn't get any answers. We were told that each attraction has a different procedure and that there's not
a standard.
There's not a park-wide standard.
And that they didn't know what each attraction's standards were.
Well, at guest relations, they didn't know. They said that each attraction would be able to answer our questions about that specific ride. And so we were basically told, if you want information about a specific ride, you need to go and ask at that attraction, because they are the ones that have the protocol and the procedures for that specific attraction. I did ask about the park capacity being at 35%, and they said, to my knowledge. So again, like, not really an answer. Like, we got a bunch of vague answers, and it was frustrating, and at the time we were very frustrated. It was that's when we kind of like had a breakdown, and we were really like so disappointed and so unsure.
We were just overwhelmed with the shock of it, I think.
And then, that's kind of when we realized, like, okay, why are we relying on somebody else to make us feel comfortable? We got to make ourselves feel comfortable.
Yeah.
And so we took a break and a breather and like really sat down for a long time and talked about it, at a table off to the side at Animal Kingdom.
Mm-hmm.
And so we realized like our biggest mistake
was relinquishing responsibility for ourselves
and expecting Disney to clean every ride, and there are some things that we do kind of think like wish were enforced or like different, but that's not really at the end of the day for us to say. Obviously not our decision. Our decision was to be here.
Right.
And that's our decision 100%. And so we have to take that responsibility on if we're gonna decide, to even come here at all. So the park procedures that we can confirm is that they are parking every other row right now.
Yeah, they space you out every other row while you're filling in, and then once you exit, they actually send the other cars in after and then fill those in. So they do max use all the parking spaces, but they give you time to exit without feeling like you're about to walk into someone's area, which that's great.
And then they're doing temperature checks. There's constant reminders, audio reminders, there's signage reminders to practice hygiene, wash your hands, and make sure that your face covering is covering your mouth
and nose.
Yeah. Now, they require masks, obviously, but they don't, to what we've seen, they don't enforce the consequences associated with not properly wearing a face covering. We have observed many cast members give gentle reminders
and
requests and sometimes multiple requests to guests to put their mask on, or to cover their whole mouth and nose. But it just doesn't seem like that's like the consequences are enforced, because over the loudspeaker they keep saying,
like, repeatedly all day,
that guests who fail to comply with the face covering
will be asked
to leave. Well, we haven't seen anybody be asked to leave. That's not to say it doesn't happen.
Right.
It's
that's
just
not what we observed.
I think, based on our observations and probably other people's, is people go, well, they're not actually going to ask us to leave. So, I think, there's not strict enforcement of consequences based on what we've witnessed. And like we said, the crowd control kind of only exists at the front of the line.
Yeah,
like the onstage part of the line. And then after you get off the ride, it's everybody funnels into these spaces.
Like downstairs,
and it's a free-for-all again. So, you really have to look out there. Now, overall, like I said, if you wanted a specific cleaning schedule for an attraction, you would have to ask that attraction. But overall, cleaning
has been relaxed.
Yeah. Cleaning procedures and schedules have been relaxed. So, even I think before the new year, or at least a few months ago, they were confirming that they were cleaning ride vehicles every 2 hours, and that just doesn't seem to be the case anymore based on all of the ones that we asked.
Yeah, I did ask, and the one I did get a confirmed time was that they cleaned it 3 times a day, morning, midday, and evening.
So, and like we said, there's no park-wide standard, so there's not any definitive answer. And that's why we were frustrated, because we were like, okay, well, we know about this, but what about when we get here? Are we going to want to be here? How do we know what's going to happen at the next park the next day? We kind of, you can see how we kind of spiraled, because some queues kind of, are less comfortable, or some of them are comfortable, then it's not comfortable once you get to the attraction. For instance, Grand Fiesta Tour in Mexico Pavilion, the queue's kind of comfortable until you get to that turn part of it, and you're really close together. There are partitions, but they were filling in all, the space, so it was a little claustrophobic. But I think dining areas have been really...
I was perfectly comfortable in the dining areas. I thought that all of the food staff and serving staff and the dining area staff were on top of it. I witnessed people leaving their dining area, and then a staff member would come in and immediately start cleaning. I saw that many times.
And I've witnessed the restrooms being cleaned. I mean, I witness that normally, so, you know.
And in the restrooms, they do have signs on the mirrors requesting that you do wash your hands for 20 seconds.
And so, you know, all this to say, we're just giving you facts on what we've observed. And that's not to say, like, Disney's not doing their job or doing it right or doing it wrong. Just facts and, like, kind of what led us to feeling uncomfortable that day that we kind of had a stumble. You know, we expected other people to look out for our best interest. Well, that's naive. That doesn't happen in daily life. So why is it going to happen now because we decided we're going to go on vacation? Like, I mean, you know, especially given the current, like, climate with everything happening, I think a lot of times we make the mistake of separating Disney from real life.
No, but Disney is real life.
It's real life. Like, it's real life. Things
like
happen.
You're still in the world when you get past the gates.
Just like they do, you know. And we thought we were, you know, more prepared. It's not like we thought, like, COVID wasn't going to exist at Disney World. I mean, we knew, you know, the possibilities and stuff like that. But it just goes to show, like, we've been ultra cautious everywhere, and we still had, like, this false sense of security. So, you know, and the biggest variable is the other guests.
Right.
That's the biggest variable, and so you can never account for that or your comfort level around somebody else. You don't know what their comfort level is, or and everybody's is different. So, you know, you have to account for the fact that you're going to be there with the most comfortable person ever.
Yep.
There's that person's going to be there somewhere. You may or may not know who they are. You just have to assume that somebody who is really comfortable is going to be there and account for that. Just like you would going anywhere else. And of course, it depends on your comfort level. Maybe you are the most comfortable person, you know, like, so it's all relative and it's all subjective. So we just felt it was important to share that it's not all just like, woohoo, we're having the best time. And that's kind of why we paused on responding to those until we could get this out there.
Yeah, we're not having the best time. We're having a real time.
Yeah, and that's good and that's bad, and that's
it's real.
That's we realized that we had to adjust our expectations, and
along with that is that we had to be prepared that if we became uncomfortable, we could walk away from any situation.
Because the only answer that guest services did give us a definitive answer on is that if you are uncomfortable as a guest in any park, they will refund your tickets.
They offer that for us.
They did offer that for us. And so that's when we had to really, really evaluate our level of comfort. Because, you know, if we're really that uncomfortable, then what are we doing there?
Yeah,
go home.
Exactly.
And so we realized we needed to stop exaggerating our discomfort, and like really, really sit down and figure out what our level of comfort was, because, you know, we kind of decided ultimately that, you know, we are prepared to walk away.
Oh yeah.
If we get to a point where we feel overwhelmed, we have walked away from attractions.
We have not. We have gone. Yeah, we have
situations.
Exactly.
We just spent, 30 minutes waiting for the crowd to leave at Hollywood Studios so that we could walk out in a less crowded, just because of anxiety, because of personal anxiety in crowds. And that's just like a real thing that we're all dealing with on a bigger level now, and it does become for us slightly irrational, right? And exaggerated. And so that's just the product of the time that we're living in, that some people are going to have a more anxious reaction and a heightened level of anxiety in general, and that we need to decide, like, are we going to manage our expectations better, or are we going to get anxious and go home? And so, we're deciding that we're taking it one day at a time.
And we're taking the steps for ourselves to make ourselves feel more comfortable.
We're taking breaks when we need it. We're
now we have sanitized wipes, and we are ourselves. When we enter a ride, we are wiping the ride down for us. And actually, and anyone knows if they see us, we're wiping it down as we leave too.
Yeah, just for the next person. Just
for you.
Just a little extra peace of mind, which goes a long way. You may or may not think that it's effective. It doesn't matter. It's all, it's a little peace of mind for us that carries us a long way, because ultimately we realize that anxiety is kind of controlling us a little bit. So, I mean, and like I said, we don't want to predict anybody's level of comfort or give you advice, but honestly, we feel pretty confident saying, if you have major anxiety, then just wait. Because it's tough, and we only have borderline moments, like a breakthrough anxiety. So if you have major anxiety, it's probably not a good place right now, especially if you have anxiety around anything health and safety related right now, but
we won't tell you what to do, but that's our suggestion.
Yeah, and for us, we feel like it's manageable for us as long as we're taking breaks, like stepping away when we need to. Like today, we rode the Skyliner from Hollywood Studios to the Riviera Resort, and we just sat on a couch in the lobby for a while to relax, and then we went to the bar downstairs, like a patio bar, and had a drink just to chill. And we probably spent 2 hours at the Riviera, and then we rode back. So you just have to decide for you, if you feel like it's worth coming here, even if you don't get the full experience that you're used to, because you might get a different idea of what a full experience is, like we did. We weren't getting the full Disney experience that we're used to getting here, but we shifted our expectations and decided that we're okay with not doing everything. We're okay with not riding every attraction. We're okay with not eating everywhere, or seeing everything. Or we walked out of Galaxy's Edge twice today because it felt too crowded for us.
It did.
And we said, that's okay. We're okay with that. It's,
we love Star Wars, but it didn't feel right today for us.
Yeah. And, just if you're okay with shifting your expectations and having a different experience than, seeing and doing everything, and, find new experiences. I don't think we ever, would have gotten on the Skyliner and spent a few hours at a resort before, because, I would have been like, oh, that's missing out on time in the parks.
Exactly.
And, you just have to, shift your perspective. And when I realized that my normal Disney speed is go, what's next, that's exhausting anyway. Who wants to do that anymore?
Yeah, you don't want to be, we didn't want to be running from
Yeah.
thing to thing on our phones going, okay, we can go on this one, we can go on this one.
Yeah.
Like, it
And
didn't work for us.
So yeah, we made these rules for ourselves, and we said, okay, number one, we're not going to force anything. We're going to take breaks when we need. We always constantly all day are communicating about how we feel to each other, because it's important that we know, because there was a time today when Alex was anxious and I felt fine, and we had to, do what it took for him to feel better, and then vice versa happened later this evening. I had a minute and he had to stop and help me work through that, even though he wasn't feeling the same as me. But he had the patience and sat there with me and said, like, okay, he didn't get to do the thing that he wanted to do because I was...
No shame in being uncomfortable. Like, you have to be... If you're uncomfortable, or if one of us is uncomfortable, we're going to share that with each other so we can both have a great time.
Mm-hmm. You're not trapped. There's always a place where you can go, because they're making it very easy for that to be the case. There's always a place where you can go and chill out.
Going to Disney and going on attractions is a choice.
Mm-hmm.
It's a choice.
And, we had to be like, okay, wake up and realize that we made this choice. Are we going to complain about it and be upset and scared the whole time we're here? Because I said, if that's the case, I'd rather go home.
Right. I don't want to be scared.
Mm-hmm.
And
upset and stressed out.
Exactly.
And anxious. And so
that's not a happy time.
When those feelings started creeping in, then we're gonna, take actions
and acknowledge them.
And understand that we're not gonna disappoint each other. If we end up not doing the thing that the other person wants to do, that's okay. You just really have to roll with it so much more now, because you're always on. You're always on trying to manage what's best for you and honestly what's best for other people. And it's tiring, and you need those breaks more than ever now, because, simply just to drink water.
Drink water, charge your electronics, if you can find someplace, go brush your teeth.
Well, no, I can't brush my teeth. That was what I was saying. I think you misunderstood me.
Oh, I did.
Brushing my teeth is not taking a break for me.
It's not.
What I was saying was, something that I had to get used to is that I always brush my teeth. I keep a toothbrush in my purse, and even at Disney, after I eat anything, I go to the restroom and I brush my teeth.
Personal choice.
The first day we were there is when I realized I can't do that.
Okay, yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Because in the restroom, you can't take your mask off anywhere.
Right.
So I would have to take my mask down or off or whatever to brush my teeth while, people are trying to wash their hands. And I was like, oh my God, I can't even brush my teeth, anymore. So it's just those small things like that you don't think about or realize, they say don't touch your face. Well, Alex almost touched my face today because I had a sequin on my face.
It's such a simple reaction.
It's an instinct, and he was like, oh, you haven't. I said, well, don't touch my face either. If you're not going to touch your own face, don't touch my face. So, yeah, it's just these little things that,
my hands are clean when I just did that.
You
Yeah,
and it is instinct, and I do think that I did that to you the other day. I did something like this, because I'm always doing this, aw. And I think I did do that to him the other day. And you just don't, so it's you're always on, and then you're always realizing the mistakes that you made. And so, we decided, we're going to stop being oh, we made so many mistakes. We did this wrong. We did that wrong. No, we're not doing it wrong. We're doing what, makes us comfortable, and fully accepting that we still might go home. Honestly, because we've been to Epcot.
We've been to Animal Kingdom.
Mm-hmm. And then we went to Hollywood Studios today, and we're going to Magic Kingdom tomorrow. So like they said, there's no park-wide standard. You know, it might
or
be
attraction, like
attraction, you know,
yeah.
like, so there's nothing to say that we're gonna feel comfortable across the board or comfortable at one park or the other, or given our mindset, or like if we found a toenail on our pillow that day, like you know, so it's just like, oh, whoa. And it's funny because like we were in New Orleans and we were like so pleasantly surprised because, you know, it's like we were almost expecting that to be like the scary one and Disney to be the safe one.
It's just a city. It's not a theme park. It's just people in the city visiting or living and doing their thing. And honestly, the only thing that really creeped me out when I was there was when I got spooked by some ghosts.
Yeah, so like we had kind of these flip-flopped expectations that like, oh, there's nobody managing the city of New Orleans, so that's going to be a free-for-all. And it was like really easy to find our comfort level there.
Because we were managing ourselves.
Because we didn't expect someone else to do it for us like we did once we got here.
Yeah.
And we go like, oh, this is going to be the easy part. They're just going to do everything for us.
Oh, yeah, they're taking
They're like washing our hands for us. Like, no, like Emily and Alex, like, no, like, come on, don't be that. I don't know.
Naive. Just it was a naive point of view that, well, we should know better.
Yeah, and that's okay. Like, I don't want to beat ourselves up about it because
that wouldn't help anything.
This year, I mean, last year, whatever
right.
has, you know, everything that's been happening has done a number on all of our mental health, and it just manifests in wild ways sometimes, and that's one of them, you know? That's one of them. Like, convincing ourselves that everything's okay because somebody else is gonna, like, fix it. I don't know.
Convince yourself everything's okay or everything's not okay. Like, that's something you have to figure out for yourself, ultimately.
And anyway, Taylor from Guest Services in Animal Kingdom, if you ever see this, sorry. I feel like I need to go back and be like, I'm sorry. Like, I almost cried at you. Like, it was not, I was just like,
it wasn't her fault.
No, it wasn't at all.
And I wasn't. It's not your fault.
I hope I wasn't being, like, harsh on her, but I was being very reactive and emotional, like, I was, like, fighting tears. Like, I'm sure she probably sees it every day and is probably like, yeah, that's kind of what happens sometimes. But I'm just like, well, looking back, I'm like, I did not manage my, like, emotions super well. Like, I was almost crying. Because I was like, now I have to go home. And I drove all the way across the country. Like, it was just such a weird reaction. And that's been happening to all of us all year.
Times. Yeah.
It even happens at Disney World.
Because it's still the real world.
In front of Taylor.
Thanks for talking to us, Taylor, by the way.
Sorry, Taylor. But anyway, so we just wanted to, like, let you guys know what the real deal is, and hopefully, you know,
help you make a more informed decision for yourself if you're planning on visiting the parks.
Mm-hmm. And we're happy to answer any questions. You know, it just felt like people were asking, you know, because they were trying to gauge whether or not they felt comfortable going, and a lot of people even said, like, oh, we have a trip coming up and we're still kind of on the fence about it. And I'm like, you know, I don't want to be responsible for saying
we can't give you the permission.
We felt comfortable, so therefore, like, you go and then you don't feel comfortable. So we just want to be as, like, real as we can about it, and we will also, like, keep it updated with these kind of one take vlogs rather than the edited like park footage.
Which all of that is coming, by the way.
Mhm.
That is coming.
But yeah, like I said, we have Magic Kingdom tomorrow for my birthday.
Happy birthday.
And we might do a little blurb on that too, and you know, kind of keep you updated on that. So yeah.
Yeah, that's
And I think we're going through our notes.
Yeah, we want to make sure we didn't lose anything.
I think that, you know, we kind of got everything out that we wanted to say, and yeah, we can answer questions and.
And if you see this and you're in